live around or eat around a dinner table anymore because, you know, it's a dying fad, I hear.
Well, it is. And I think that sharing mealtime is more than just dinner time. So, you know, we go back to the early years of back in the 1950s, you know, I'll say from my childhood, you know, you sat down at dinner time, no matter was going on, you're called in from the neighborhood, come in from playing. It's
Right.
time for you to, you know, sit down at the table, and it was scripted. And I believe that that is one of the challenges that we have in our life today. Life isn't scripted. And we welcome all of you viewers to
Yes.
join us to Healthy You. I'm Mary Ardapple with Coreview Coach.
And Kim Martin here hosting with Healthy You. And we come at you live every Wednesday. And of course, it is the second Wednesday of September. So
I get to
our
come.
expert gets to come and have her show with Coreview Coaching and share all of her lifetime, really, of experience with food and help us. I mean, I've learned so much from you, Mary. I always get excited when we get to hang out together. When you said the topic was going to be the benefits of sharing a meal together, I'm like, "Ugh, of course. That's such a great topic for this day and age. And it's really, you love to talk about the relationship of
I
food.
do.
And what better?
It is. It's all about our relationship with food. And as you can see, I also brought a vegetable of the
I was
month,
so excited.
a cooking
Pumpkins!
pumpkin.
Oh.
But before we get to that, because there's actually a really big relationship story around this pumpkin all the way to this pumpkin bread. So we'll
which I'm gonna
close
get to
out our
taste.
program talking about that because it is pretty cool. But as I was thinking about this month, Kim, it's like, okay, relationship with food really is most beneficial when we share food with others.
Yes, it is.
But unfortunately, as we live our life story, we don't always eat with others
Right.
because of whatever phase of life we may be in. So we may be single, we may be young, college student living in the dorm, you know, and busy, working, young
Couple of jobs.
professionals.
So many people work 2 and 3 jobs anymore.
Exactly. Then we get married, and we have a lot of activities that we love. Then we have children, and I think when we have those of us that choose to have children, that's where we get back into a real routine because we are responsible for the upbringing of the young people in the house. But then those children get older and move away to college, and suddenly you find yourself with either you're single or you're in a couple relationship, and it's like all of a sudden you find yourself eating out a lot,
Yes.
or possibly you have made friends with a special television program and the TV trays come out and you're no longer looking across the table at the person that you've lived with for the last 30 years. Instead, your focus is towards that TV. And then as we get the opportunity to live longer, we may lose our loved one. We may find ourselves single again. We're grieving. We're lonely. So when you think of the life story of one person, on how we lose easily the interconnectivity with others, food again is that medium that can bring us back together. So there is research. There's lots and lots of research out there that shows eating or sharing food with others really lowers the tendencies of depression. It helps people process through grief. It's such an expression, and it's a social
thing. I put out there this one. I'm really curious, and I hope that if you're listening, that you'll show us some love, like and share this show, so we can help get the word out. Mary is so knowledgeable and shares so much information with us on the second Wednesday of every month. So we want to make sure as many people can hear this show and learn from her as possible. So you can help us out with that. But I'm also curious too, if how you feel about these shared meals. How often do you share a meal with a family member or a friend or anyone? And is it important to you? And how do you feel about it? This is triggered this kind of, I want to take a poll kind of thing.
That's
like,
cool.
I want to know.
That's really cool. And it's in this, the timing of this topic for me is also, we're in the precursor month to the holiday season. And so as the weather shifts, you know, we have this lovely gentle rain this morning.
And it's fall.
And it's fall.
It's almost fall.
It's
close
almost
enough.
fall.
You got your fall colors
It
on
is.
looking pretty.
And so we have a tendency to come back inside. So that's another catch
Yeah.
to being mindful about sharing food with others. We are so much more ready to be outside in the summer in warm weather, and so we're engaging with others in different
Right.
ways. And so then we come inside. Neighbors don't see neighbors as much, so you have to really be intentional in this area of our relationship
Right.
with food. So there are a couple of things that I really like to start to plan for.
Okay.
And that's one I encourage our listeners to take away today is to develop your own communal action plan around food. Communal action plan. How'd you like that
I
one?
love it.
Communal
You
action
got that
plan.
wrote down somewhere. Don't forget that.
I won't. Actually,
Yeah, write it down because that is awesome. A communal action plan.
Right. Actually, later in the week, there will be a blog posted that it is develop a communal gathering action plan.
Yes,
Because I think gathering
love
is a real
it.
key about it.
Yes.
So let me share, I love to share stories from when I was a
We'd
kid.
love to hear them.
Because, that's just really fun is not only sharing food, but sharing stories that left that emotional imprint on you. So when I was a little girl, I grew up in Morrison, Illinois, north of here, about 90 miles. And there was a hedge in between our driveway and our neighbor's house. And Clara and Sam Vanderlaan lived next door to us. And Clara was the dearest, sweetest lady. And when you're little, you remember everybody as being really old. I'm pretty confident that Clara was always really old, and that's just how I remember her. But she kind of had this twinkle in her eye, and she had this, I felt this magic around her. And she was a bread baker. And so you would know when Clara was baking bread, she would come over to the hedge and kind of do a hello, anybody around? And she would always bake 2 loaves of bread. So she would bring us a loaf right out of the oven.
Oh, yeah.
So what do? You go get a stick of butter, right, or 2, and slice that loaf of bread.
Hot.
And you just gobbled this down,
yes.
as a child. So today, when I bake bread, I always eat a piece of that bread right out of the oven. I always put butter on it. I rarely do that ever after that. But I remember Clara is the giver of that gift.
And you think about that.
And so her warmth and her love comes across that hedge, and I can visualize her. And it's just those imprints that we have.
I wonder if that might have just been a little nudge for you as becoming this baker. I don't know. I mean, so young to me, have that kind of an impression.
It could be.
From someone bringing over the bread. I think that's funny. And I'm sidebarring for a second, but
That's
this
okay.
just is.
We know we always do this, right?
Because this is so good, but you know how I am about purpose and people
Right.
fulfilling their goals and their dreams. And I feel like that story in itself is living proof that if you can go back to your childhood and really start from where you were placed in your life, where you were born, your circumstances, who impacted your life.
Oh, yes.
You can see the stamp and you can see the little cookie crumbs. I like to call them little cookie crumbs in your life that you can say, hey, that was an impressionable time way back then baking. How about that? I don't know. It's just so cool to me.
I so agree with you. And I think it is, again, being thoughtful and being present within yourself, because we do all have those stamps in our
Yes.
life. And then where do they shine?
Right.
And for me, it is a love of food, and it's love of all of you out there. So I love talking about this. But when I talk about communal action plan, it might not be that you have someone in your house to eat food with, okay?
Right.
So what do?
You find a sisterhood.
You can find a sisterhood. Here's what my recommendation is on the first thing to do is to set a regular date each month that you're going to prepare something and you're going to gift it.
Oh.
So going into the fall right now, we have lots of vegetables still available out there, but make a big pot of your favorite soup that you remember that mom made or grandma made or Uncle Harry made. It does not have to be a woman in your life. It could be a man that was very gifted at cooking. But make that pot and then divide it up, and right on top of that container, recipe from ABC person.
Right.
So you're going to reinstill that memory in your mind. But then when I come to your house and I say, Kim, I wanted to drop something off to you today. It's a recipe that really is important to me, and I hope you love it as much as I do.
Aw.
And you catch somebody out of surprise. So now you have been the giver of that food. You don't have to eat it with them, but then when you go back and you eat your bowl of that soup or whatever the case may be, you not only remember the person that brought that recipe to you in your life, but you now remember the look on your face of somebody just brought me a container of soup.
Aw, that's so cool. Yeah.
So
It's an amazing way to think about it. And those are the things that when it comes to food, we just don't think about. We live in such a fast-paced world.
We do.
And if there's one thing I've really been learning from you, there's a lot of things, but one of the main things that I've really that I've been taking away from you is slowing down and enjoying the food and taste it, because you know me, I'm like 90 miles an hour, right? And so I'm like when it's time to eat, and I'm like, no, I'm going to sit down.
Two things to that slowing down. And yes, and thank you for that observation, because I too live my life very, very fast, booked in to book in, racing against the timer of the ovens and answering the phone and helping customers. But it is always to sit down and eat, not to
Yes.
stand up and eat. So I recommend that we always sit at the table. Now let's talk about that hectic lifestyle, not of a single person, but of a hectic family.
Sure.
And we have all the traveling teams. We have all the school schedules. If
Oh,
we have
it's nutso.
kids are going this way, kids are going that way. One needs to eat at 5, one needs to eat at 7, one might need to take it with them.
We're the crock pot family. That would be us. And
crock pot
we
family
are a
is
crock
great.
pot family.
And the thing is, though, I recommend that we make sure that the family is eating the same meal. And now with a crock pot, you can do that.
That's right.
So no matter what time they come in or have to leave, everybody has shared the same food. And I recommend in the busy family that you set aside one night that is a priority. Whatever night of the week works in your schedule, but consistently protect that night. In our house, it was always Sunday night supper. And though actually, most of the time in our house, we did eat dinner together, even though we were busy with the businesses and all of that.
Yeah.
But Sunday night supper ended up becoming our ritual when our son was in high school. And what we found as we invited kids over, that I would say on Sunday morning, all right, Sunday night supper, Alex, how many of your friends are coming? So you always have your table open to share with others.
So communal. There's your
Again,
communal
you're coming
action
back
plan.
with the communal. So you're either a giver of that love and that food, or you are a sharer around the table. But my point in this conversation isn't that it has to be the same all the time, that you have to do it this way. What we are in is a very hectic lifestyle, and we have to be nimble on our feet on how we make sure that we are emotionally connected with others around food. So either as a gift or at the table. Now, another great idea, I think, is super, super fun, is Twofold, and it is all around cookbooks. So, we have Bunko, we have book
Going to
clubs.
Bunko for the first time Friday night, actually.
Are you going to Bunko?
For the first time. I've
There
never been
you-
to Bunko in
there
my
you
life.
go.
I'm like,
I've
oh,
tried
man.
Bunko. Yeah.
Bunko.
It'll be fun.
It'll be great. A bunch of Curbs girls are getting together for Bunko, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay, and there'll be food.
And yes,
There will always be food.
there will be food, I hear. So
So one of the things with gathering people together for whether a game or a topic, but to create a cookbook club. And so once a month, everybody cooks a recipe out of the same cookbook. And you assign a category. So 1 month, I'm going to cook entree. You're going to do the side dish. Mike's going to do the dessert.
okay.
And so everybody gets to sample recipes out of that same cookbook. Okay?
Okay.
And you can get recipes online. So you don't have to. People say, I don't really want to load up my shelves anymore with multiple cookbooks.
Right.
You can go to a website and download from those different categories.
Sure.
So think of it, you can do it virtually that way. But one of the things about an author of a cookbook is they all have their own unique take on that recipe. Ingredients they really like to use, flavoring and seasoning patterns that are their bent, and they share that through that book. So it's like if you want to try a new cuisine, say I want to try the Mediterranean style of cooking, but I want to try a lot of different recipes, but I only have myself at home. Creating that cookbook club, then you gather once a month and you just get 12 people together. I think in dozens always. So, you invite 12, however many show up.
Wait, a regular dozen. What's a baker's dozen?
It's 13.
Okay, 13, but 12.
But I always stay in 12 because it needs to be divided by 3. That's a whole nother story. That we could talk about that one for a really long time.
Awesome.
People that know me well know she thinks in 3s all the time.
3s are good, though.
3s
Threes
are good.
is always
it's my number.
good. Yeah.
It's my number. So creating that cookbook club is another way to create that communal gathering action plan.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
We did this, we sampled this experiment back in 2014 as Chris was training for a really big run. And we didn't do it with cookbooks, but we did it with season. And so we had a potluck once a month for a year long called Sunday Night Supper. Once again, Sunday Night Supper, invited friends. Most of them, well, actually, we had the parameter, they had to be over 50 and no kids living at home.
And so that was a different
That was a different
Interesting
segue.
because you did Sunday Night Supper differently when your kid was home.
Exactly.
When your kid was home, it was about him and all of his friends coming over. So you were opening your door to all these wonderful kids and having an impression on them, which is awesome. And then when he moved out, now you're doing it with
adults. Supposedly mature adults.
Mature adults are no fun.
Those of you of my friends know who you are, so that's okay. But yeah, it is. It's, again, repackaging a concept to bring that communal sharing of food. And we did it by season. And everybody had to bring a locally grown ingredient or locally produced ingredient. And I will be honest, it got challenging for some, especially when you get into the root vegetable season, but the potluck would be just beautiful. You talk about color and the aromas that come in the house.
You have to bring something that was in season.
You have to bring something, as it went, you ended up having to bring something that was local. So it could be a farm-raised chicken. You could have used farm-raised eggs. You could have used honey that was, from harvested from here, or it could be a vegetable, that you found. And so that meant people needed to go somewhere else and really seek out an ingredient or a product that then they came and shared. And what we found in this wonderful experiment is that people are trying foods they'd never tried before.
Yeah.
Have never tried. And those that are really good bakers or really good cooks, they're trying recipes they've never done before.
And then you're yummy. You're trying it out, and you're having fun tasting. And it's all about relationship then.
It is. And then you were to bring to-go containers.
So you got to
so
take
that
some
you
home.
took your favorites home with you, put them in the freezer, labeled who made it, and then when you pulled it out in the winter, you could say thank you to them. So it is being really, really mindfully intentional of knowing where your food comes from, which is, again, another part of sharing the food experience.
This whole mindful thing is really, really impactful. And when it comes to our food, we got to start being more mindful. And I love how you're bringing that to light. Be intentional about the food that you're preparing and the things that you're doing, and don't just, go at it without a plan. It's awesome.
We all know someone in our life pretty regularly that's struggling.
Yeah.
And it may be that they're struggling with a weight condition or a health condition or loss of someone. And, especially grieving in loss. You could lose a pet. I lost a dog a couple of weeks ago.
It's sad for a lot of
It's
people.
really sad times for a lot of people. So when we talk about sharing food again, in times of loss, people do really nice things for those people that are grieving and have lost. But that person has a hard time oftentimes getting started again. So that's where we can be the giver of love in that food, but then also when we're receptive, that we're available, that person that's struggling can revisit some of
Yes.
these recipes, some of these favorites, and then give them back. And so it is a real give and take on that shared meal. So I want to leave our listener today with the thought about this. You don't have to sit down at a table. And let's talk about that for a moment. It doesn't have to be that you're going to invite 12 people into your house. It could be one person into your house. Or you could say, let's go out to dinner or out to lunch once a month, so that you are intentionally joining with another person.
Or
out.
if you have family, I just got a good idea because my sisters are down south, and so none of us like to talk on the phone. You know, we're talkers, but we just don't like to talk on the
Yep.
phone. So then we end up going a long period of time without talking to each other. We love each other very much.
You can do it virtually.
Like a virtual
Yeah.
too. You could.
You picked my brain right there.
I just thought about that. So sorry. Keep going
No,
because
you're
that's
fine.
a great idea.
Go ahead.
No, I just was thinking I should get my sisters. We need to FaceTime and have a little FaceTime
Right.
lunch or dinner or something at least once every 4 or 5 weeks just to see each
It's so
other.
easy.
Yeah, it is easy, and we forget that we live in this technology world. So, you know, if you're thinking your family lives away, your friends live away, if you're here and you're like,
Right.
yeah, I don't know anybody, I'm lonely. Every now and then someone walks into Curves and they've just moved into town. They know no one.
No one.
And so don't forget about the virtual things too.
Well, and you did. She plucked that right out of my head. And I love it when that happens between the two of us because it actually happens
Minds
pretty
think
often.
alike. Yes,
But
that's what they say.
that is exactly right. Twofold thoughts here is one, to echo again Kim's comments about virtual. We have the IT. We don't have to physically, obviously that's the best if we're having physical,
Sure.
but we live in a world today that we have the convenience of sharing visual time with another. So sit down at that meal instead of taking a TV tray in front of the television where you don't know those actors and they're not going to send you a Christmas card or a birthday card. Dial up somebody and say, let's have dinner at 6:15 tonight. I'll FaceTime you. And what are you eating? And what recipe did you use? Or how was your day? Because really that's what this is all about, is connecting with another. We as humans, our health and wellness increases exponentially when we have nurturing relationships with others and doing it around food. It just is a natural connectivity. The second point in today's world, people will say, I don't have time to cook.
Right.
I'm
gosh,
too busy.
I hear that all the time.
I'm too busy. I don't have time. I don't have time. Well, that's okay. You don't have to have time because our grocery stores now make it so easy for you to get healthy, nutritious food at any of our primary grocery
Sure.
stores. So go ahead and invite someone over, and though you didn't have time to cook a whole meal, get the key parts at the grocery store, plate it on your own table, light a candle, put some fresh flowers on the table, and have a really, really nice time.
Yeah. And give a shout out to Eat and Evolve because we have a
Yeah.
local place that delivers fresh
We sure
made
do.
food, and check that out, Eat and Evolve. So if you just refuse to cook or you're by yourself or you're eating out a lot, that's another good option. Just want to shoot that out there too.
Gabby does a great job at
Yeah.
Eat and Evolve.
Eatandevolve.com. Check that out because that is an amazing option for you for healthy food.
Right.
Just a quick plug.
That's awesome. I love that company. I recommend it to my clients on a regular basis.
A lot of my Curves ladies are using their they're getting their food and they love it.
Nice.
It's great.
So as we are starting to close out, because I want to get to this pumpkin, because this is
I
a
know.
great
You've been
story.
seeing
There's a
this
huge
pumpkin?
story about this pumpkin, is that the takeaway today is what has been your communal gathering action plan and what would you like it to look like in the future. So check out coreviewcoach.com later in the week. I'll post it on my Facebook page, Coreview Coaching on Facebook, so you'll know it's up and running. But shoot myself or Kim, what is your communal gathering action plan so that you can develop an even healthier relationship with sharing food with others? Now to this
Communal gathering
to this
action plan.
pumpkin.
Just love it. Okay.
To this pumpkin.
I just been sitting here waiting to try this, but we'll
Yeah.
talk about the pumpkin
We're going to
first.
talk about the pumpkin first because this is really a 360 story. So right now, this is a cooking pumpkin. So that's why I brought it
How do
today.
you know it's a cooking
That's
pumpkin?
that's the hybrid of it. It's not a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. They're different different breeds of pumpkins, just like there's Roma tomatoes.
I had no idea.
You know, beefsteak tomatoes. Yeah, okay. So this one is actually a cooking pumpkin. This is a gift from my garden and my compost pile. And you're like, Mary, you are just really out to lunch today. Well, I will be at one time because I'm going to turn this into pumpkin soup. Ha ha. So last year, a person, a casual acquaintance, gifted me a cooking pumpkin that was about the size of a baby.
Oh, wow.
It was huge. It was absolutely huge. And so if you get one of those, take it, cut it in half, take the seeds out, roast it, then scoop the pulp out, and then you'll have fresh pumpkin to bake with or to make soup with. Well, my compost pile doesn't always get everything as hot in it as it should, and every year I get some rogue plant that starts. Last year it was watermelon. This year, these seeds came from the pumpkin I was gifted last year, and because I put compost in my garden, they just nurtured those seeds. And so
it grew. You grew a pumpkin?
So I have a
And
whole
you didn't
vine.
even mean to?
I didn't even mean to. Isn't that cool?
That would never happen to me. I can't keep my flowers alive. Like all my summer flowers are, I'm like throwing them out.
I just think that's just so, random and cool all at the same time.
Yeah, of course it is.
But it's where one gift, said, I'm not done giving. And so it has given again in my garden. And so I will now make something.
Voila, you have pumpkins.
So I will now make something out of these pumpkins that this vine is growing, and then I will gift it forward. So now to the pumpkin bread, okay, that you have today. And both you and I have a huge sweet tooth. Remember,
Yes.
I am that retired sugar peddler. And so I bake at home primarily with honey. So this pumpkin bread was made with the honey.
The natural honey, the local
natural
honey.
local honey that Kim, one of her acquaintances, sourced and sold through Curves, and I bought some. So I used the honey that you connected me with.
Yes.
It has black walnuts in it that my friend Donna was at a farmer's market in St. Louis that I couldn't go with her this year, and she knows I love black walnuts. So it's got a little taste of Donna in there.
Okay.
And the pumpkin, another friend was gifted a pumpkin, and she called me the other day and says, I have this pumpkin, what do I do with it? I said, roast it, scoop it out. She brought me a ginormous Ziploc bag of the pumpkin puree. So I thank Kim, Donna, and Diana
How
for
about
this
that?
pumpkin bread. So I used coconut oil in it.
Okay.
So with using the honey, you're not going to get that really sugary hit. It's going to be a lot more mellow. But now as I freeze this, I will slice those loaves into slices, individually wrap them so I don't eat the entire loaf at one time.
Right.
I'll only pull out one piece or two at a time, but on the package it will give thanks to these three fine ladies that put an ingredient in here.
Aw, how
So-
cool is that?
So all throughout the winter, I'll be able to think of the kindness that I was able to get an ingredient to give me a sweet treat. And it might be a day I'm celebrating something really, really incredibly awesome. Or, it might be a day that I'm a little blue and it might be less awesome than I would like it to be. But knowing where some of those ingredients come from
Yeah.
makes that
I
day
just
even
love
brighter.
that whole concept
Isn't that
of the
cool?
relationship with the food. But I'm still hung up that you just got pumpkins growing from seeds.
I do.
That would never happen to nobody else, only to Mary.
Well, it might be.
So don't worry. We're all on the same page that we don't just randomly grow pumpkins in our backyard.
It could be that I'm really not gifted at getting my compost pile hot enough, But yes, this year I've been gifted. And so regularly in my garden, when I put the compost down in the spring, I will have some seed that has designated itself to come alive again.
And tomatoes just grow back this year.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
was pretty cool.
Well,
so.
this has been, again,
I
an
know.
incredible
I love
time
it.
to
I
spend.
had so much fun. It's the
We just
fastest
zip by.
30 minutes ever. So again, please remember that Mary with Coreview Coaching is here the second Wednesday
Yeah.
of every month live with great information. Guys, show us some love. Make a comment. Tell us, let us know what you're going to do to what did you call it?
To develop your communal gathering action plan.
Communal
all around
gathering
food,
action plan.
strengthen your relationships with others, and using food as the platform to do that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, until we see one another again, have a wonderful day. It's just a pleasure to join time with you.
Have
Thanks,
fun.
Kim.
All right. See you again soon.
Awesome.
Yay. So I get to actually try this?
PeoriaLife.com.